Hi class, today we are on lesson 18 of your book for Saxon Math, and today's lesson is on temperature. So we have one new word for you to put in your math dictionaries, which is scale. And a scale is basically just a special type of number line that we use for measuring. The notches and the numbers that you read on a ruler are a scale, and the notches that we're going to read on our thermometers today are scales as well. I've also got 3 other words up here that are review words from last year. So we'll talk about Fahrenheit and Celsius. Those are 2 different scales that are used to read temperature. In the United States, typically we read in degrees Fahrenheit, whereas most other countries read degrees Celsius. So we will learn to do both, and really the only difference is what letter is underneath our thermometer. So this thermometer is going to read Fahrenheit. This thermometer is going to read Celsius. Also, from 3rd grade, last year we learned the boiling point of water in Fahrenheit and Celsius degrees. In Fahrenheit, it's 212 degrees, whereas in Celsius, the boiling point is 100 degrees. And the freezing point of water. In Fahrenheit, water freezes at 32 degrees, whereas it freezes in Celsius at 0 degrees. So what that means is if we put 2 thermometers, a Fahrenheit and a Celsius thermometer, outside on a freezing day, the temperature outside doesn't change. What changes is what the thermometer reads it as. So if you're looking at a Fahrenheit thermometer on a freezing day, it's going to say 32 degrees. On the exact same day, a Celsius thermometer will read 0 degrees. Like I said, the temperature doesn't change. It's just they're 2 different scales that we use, which makes it a little confusing, but there's not a whole lot of information that goes along with it. So we just memorize the different freezing and melting points, okay? And then, of course, there's the word degrees, which is the unit of measurement we use when we're talking about temperature. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of thermometers on, oh, and I forgot to color some in. Example 1 says, what temperature is shown on this thermometer? So let me color it in, and then I think I'm going to have to move the camera up close so that you guys can read it. So, what temperature is shown on that first thermometer? Notice that we're not counting by ones. These notches, I go from 20 to 30 without enough notches to count by ones. So I would go 21, 22, 23, 24, 30. No, that doesn't make sense. So I must be counting by something else. Typically, when you see thermometers, you're counting by 2s. So we've got 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. Yes, there's 30. So if this right here is 30 degrees, what would be one notch above it? 32 degrees. So we'll write the answer to our first example right here. This thermometer is 32. We put a little circle there to show degrees, and then we put the F to show we're reading this in degrees Fahrenheit. Our second example, the thermometer goes to right there. Once again, I'll bring you close so you can see it. Now this one's a little different. First of all, it's Celsius. And secondly, look, we don't start at positive 20 like we did here. We start at negative 20. So here's my 0. Notice that my thermometer doesn't even make it to 0. That means I have to count negative numbers. So from 0, and once again, my scale here is 2. See, from 0, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So from 0, I'm going to have to count backwards. So this would be negative 2, and this would be negative 4. So let's write the answer to that one. Negative 4 degrees Celsius is how we would write that. Okay, example number 3 is is looking at both of these thermometers. The first one is colored to right there, and the second one is right there. Okay, and I want you to notice the time because these two thermometers come with a word problem. It says Karina looked at the thermometer outside her window at 7 a.m. So this first one is the 7 a.m. thermometer. And then again when she returned home from school at 3 p.m. So this second one's the 3 p.m. thermometer. How many degrees warmer was the temperature at 3 p.m. than at 7 a.m.? So this one has a couple of parts. I'll get rid of these so we can have the workspace. In order to solve this problem, first we need to know what these two temperatures are. So let's get up nice and close. And looking at the 7 a.m., once again, counting by twos, we can check that by saying 32, 34, 36, 38, 40. So here we have 50, 52, 54. So this temperature is 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. The 3 p.m. thermometer, again, counting by twos. So from 60 here, 62, 64, actually I can't read my, 62, 64, 66, that one right there is 68. Or we can look at the 70 and say, oh, it's one notch down, so that must be 68 degrees. I'm going to write that up here. Also Fahrenheit. All right, so we have our two temperatures, and the question wants to know how many degrees warmer. That's kind of the same as a how many more. And even though we're saying the word more, we know that how many more means subtract. We have to subtract when we have a how many more problem. So we're going to take our two numbers here, subtract them. 8 minus 4 is 4, 6 minus 5 is 1, and our answer would be 14 degrees warmer from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. The temperature rose 14 degrees. Okay. So the next couple thermometers I have here are for you to practice. So I'm going to try to get up real nice and close, and I want you to tell me what temperature is on this thermometer. See if you can read it, figure out the scale. I'll give you a hint, the scale hasn't changed in any of these thermometers for this entire lesson. So we're counting by twos. So if this is 100, what would one notch below 100 be? If you said 98, you are correct. This is 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at the second one here. Notice our letter has changed, so we're going to talk about Celsius. What's the temperature for this one? It's almost to the 10, but one notch below. So you should have said 8 degrees Celsius. This thermometer is 8 degrees Celsius. Okay, the next two thermometers go together. So I'll read the problem to you. It says these thermometers show the average daily minimum and maximum temperatures in Duluth, Minnesota during the month of January. What are those temperatures? What is the difference between the two temperatures shown? So here they actually have two questions for us, starting with what are the temperatures? So here, notice it's degrees Fahrenheit. We're just below the 0. So from 0, if we go below 0, we are talking about negative numbers. So this would be -2 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, let's get up close with this one. Again, Fahrenheit. This time we're above 0. We're just slightly below the 20 degree mark. So that one's going